Hey everybody, this is Mr. Moppin coming at you with another APGov video. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. This time we're taking a look at topic 4.6, evaluating public opinion data. Now, recently we've been talking about, how the purpose of polling, to measure public opinion, the ways that polls are created, and some of the things to kind of keep in mind, when a polling agency is trying to develop that poll, be it through the way the question is crafted, through the methodology by which a sample is composed to try to represent the opinion of the population. This time what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at, how do we evaluate the results that we get from public opinion polls. And note, not just as somebody just looking at a set of, results, like you're just looking at a table or something like that, but also, how, we should kind of respond to when we see media report on polling that comes out. That's going to be significant in terms of how this information is going to be presented, and we should be mindful of, some of the goals of media with regards to how they, broadcast that information. So, with that being said, keep in mind that when the media covers results of, say, candidates running for president, a lot of that, or really any kind of an election, really, a lot of that coverage is described as what we call horse race coverage. The idea being is, who's up, who's down, who's winning, who's losing, what are the recent trends, that kind of stuff. And that tends to get most of the attention of people, and that tends to be what is mostly broadcast. Now you might think, well, okay, so what? But here's the thing: if most of the coverage is about who's up and who's down, well, that then marginalizes other things that might be really of greater significance. For example, what are the different policy stances on these candidates? What do they endorse? What do they support? Sometimes you'll see on, some of these, broadcasts, how they will try to, maybe explain, why there might be changes in the polling results, but, not nearly as much in-depth reporting about the policy stances, the platforms of these candidates, as opposed to who's up and who's down. Now, note, where you as a candidate, lie in the polling at any given time is, of course, critical for a number of different things. One of those things is what we call the bandwagon effect. Basically, those candidates that are perceived as doing well in the polling receive more benefits than those candidates that are perceived to be doing worse in polling. And therefore, if you are up in the polls, you're more likely to get more money. You're going to do much better fundraising than a candidate that's not doing as well. And it's basically the idea of, if you're going to be, as a donor, investing money into a potential campaign, you want your investment to pay off. In other words, you want to put your money down on the candidate that you think is really going to win. No point in putting money down on someone that's going to lose. And so what the polling tends to do is it tends to have, kind of this effect of, determining the winners in advance to some degree. It kind of has a self-fulfilling prophecy effect. The perceived leaders get more money, which does make them more likely to win, and the perceived losers get less funding, which makes it more likely that they will lose. So, being up early in polling can have a major effect on your fundraising. Now, if you're running for president of the United States in recent years, early polling, like polling that's, well over a year before the general election, has tremendous influence. For example, influence on whether or not you even make the debate stage. In recent, presidential election cycles, we have seen more and more candidates running for office. Here's just about a half of the Democrat candidates that ran in 2020. They had so many candidates that they actually fielded two separate sets of debates amongst the Democratic challengers. And the way that they set up who was in each debate and where they stood on stage was based on polling results. If you were the candidate that was polling higher, like with this selection of candidates, people like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, you were placed in the middle and those that were not as popular placed on the ends out here. And that tells you right off the bat, as a viewer of this debate, who the perceived leaders are. And assuming you don't really do a horrible job in the debate, that once again adds to more fundraising, the ability of, hey, people want to donate money to the candidate they think is likely to win. If you're already out on the wings, so to speak, early on, you're already behind, and it's going to be really, really, really difficult to get back into being competitive. Now, the way the Democrats did their debates in 2020 was they basically ranked all of the candidates, all 20 candidates, based on polling averages, and they tried to create, balanced debates in terms of, the top poll getters. So, for example, in this one, your top poll getters were, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So they were on one debate night, but then you had other ones, such as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, on another night. So they tried to divide it up so as to say, both debate nights were legitimate. What the Republicans did back in 2016 was that was much harsher. They basically had about 20 candidates as well in 2016, and what they basically did was take the list of 20 based on their polling results, and they basically put the top 10 in one debate and the bottom 10 in another debate on the same night. And so basically the bottom 10's debate went first, almost like a JV game, and then the top 10 polling leaders were then after that in the primetime debate, almost like the varsity debate. And in that kind of a setup, if you didn't even make the prime stage, well, good luck making money. Good luck bringing in money for your campaign. So polling at a very early age, at a very, very early point, if you're talking about, getting ready for the 2024 presidential election, you're looking at polling in the summer of 2015. Not 2015, I'm sorry, 2023, to, give you a sense of, hey, how is this going to be affecting my ability to raise funds and therefore affecting my ability to have a truly competitive campaign. So, polling and the way that it is broadcast has a tremendous impact on your ability to really be competitive in, in running for president of the United States, for example. Now, polling obviously has an impact on, the different branches of government to some degree, obviously some more than others. When we take a look at Congress, we tend to see, and it's probably not a big surprise, we tend to see polling have a greater impact on House members than we do see for senators. And it's not that senators, are just, more arrogant or, something along those lines. That's not it. It's just that if you're a member of the House, you're up for re-election every 2 years. There's really a sense of, once you won your election, it's only going to be about a year before you're back at it again. So you're always really having to, kind of keep your ear to where the polling is telling you your constituents want you to be. So you tend to be much more responsive to polling data than senators do, because if you're a senator that gets elected in 2020, well, you're not up again until 2026. That's a long time. And yes, I mean, senators don't, obviously totally ignore polling, but you're not as, driven or enslaved, if you will, by the polling as, say, maybe a House member would. Looking at the White House, looking at the president, polling, of course, is very significant in terms of trying to legitimize presidential policies. If you, for example, are, Joe Biden, and you see polling that shows that, 70% of Americans, want to see infrastructure improved in the United States, well, that's certainly going to give you the ability to say that you have a mandate to promote and support infrastructure legislation as part of your overall agenda. So you want to be able, as a president, when you're proposing what you want to do, be it on the campaign trail or at the State of the Union address or whenever, you want to be able to say that the people are behind you. And the polling will show you whether or not the people are behind you, therefore giving you that sense of a mandate. And of course, if you have that support of the people, well, let me go back for a second. How do you, help to kind of craft that support for the people? Well, a lot of presidents are going to be able to do that through the, the bully pulpit, the idea of being able to use the media, use public speaking to be able to connect to the public, to get them to understand get in support of what the president's goals are, and then once you have that support, you then have that mandate. It gives you a much stronger case to get done what you want done legislatively. Now, turning to the judicial branch, we know that the judicial branch is not nearly as beholden to polls as members of Congress or the president because they are not elected. They're appointed and serve for life. That being said, though, we do tend to see the courts be in line generally with where the public is. For example, the 2015 Obergefell case, which legalized gay marriage in America, this was at a point where we had already, recently kind of met a turning point, reached a turning point in America where most Americans by 2015 were in support of homosexuals having the right to get married, and the court represented that. Now, does that mean that the court, looks at the polls and makes decisions that way? No, I don't think so. We don't really know for a fact why this happens, but, I would speculate that part of it is just the sense that, members of the Supreme Court are people like anybody else. They're not robots. These are people that live in the world. They read the newspapers. They watch television. They talk to their friends and neighbors. They're like one of us, in many respects. So, they're not blind. They're not deaf. They're not, immune to what is happening, in America at a given time socially. So I think that might explain it a little bit. All right, we're going to leave it there for right now. We'll come back with a second video taking a look at evaluating public opinion data. We'll see you next time. Bye.